This is the month of January, and so we're speaking about the basic principles of science of mind this month. And last week, I was talking about the basic assumption, really, the basic starting point of most of the major world faiths, and certainly of ours in religious science, which is that God exists and that God is all there is. That's really what omnipresent means. That everything, everywhere, every presence, every being, all it is the presence of God. That is omnipresence. That everything that exists is spirit made into that. Spirit manifesting itself as that. And what I said last week is that means that unlimited presence is the essence of what we are, and it is all where we are. It's not like God is kind of spread out really thinly throughout the universe, and a little bit of it is over here where Leanna is, and a little bit of it is back there where Paul is, and some more is over there where Jerome is, and some is in India, and some's down in Antarctica. Like, you know, as the famous Unity minister Eric Butterworth used to say, it's not as if God is in you somewhere, like a raisin in a bun. Rather, that presence isn't just some little spark somewhere inside you. It is the essence of what we all are. And so if that's so, it means that regardless of what it might look like at any given moment, that all of the qualities of spirit are right where you are. I want you to think for a moment about somebody that you admire, a person that you think is so talented or so gifted or so enlightened or so conscious, someone who has gifts that you would like to have or you wish that you had. And just think about that person for a moment. And now I'd like you to think about somebody that you really dislike. Somebody that you think could do better. Somebody that you think should be doing better, that they ought to know better, that they should get over it, whatever it is. Now I want to tell you a lovely, difficult truth, which is, if we can recognize something in someone else, it's because it's in us. So all of the qualities that we admire in people, all of the things that we wish we were, we wouldn't even know what those were unless those qualities were within us. We wouldn't recognize them. And the same goes for the things that we judge. So all of what exists, all of what is manifested, is present in all of us all the time. We have access to all of it. We have the freedom to manifest in all of those ways. But the best news about that is that all of the unlimited creative qualities of spirit are also available to us. Even if we have never accessed them in the past, even if we have no idea how to do it, even if it wasn't what we thought about ourselves at all, it's still there. It's latent, you might say. It's available. Now, there's another interesting truth that grows out of all this, which is, if the universe is spirit in manifestation, then the question is, what is the mechanism by which that happens? And I said last week that Ernest Holmes read the lectures of Judge Thomas Troward, his lectures on mental science, which were done when Ernest Holmes was still a boy, but they had been printed. And Ernest read them and studied them. And one of the things that Thomas Troward said is that in order for God to manifest in form, something had to move, something had to shift from the formless to the form, something changed. And the only movement he could imagine that was non-physical was the movement of thought. So Troward's conclusion was that we are God's thoughts made manifest in form. That as God contemplated itself, the movement of God upon God resulted in form, and that very movement of thought and belief is lawful. In other words, what is thought about by God becomes the manifestation of that thought. It doesn't become a manifestation of something else. Now, if then that lawful creation is the way in which God creates, and we are the essence of that same presence, then that creative process is also taking place in us. What we think about, what we believe, has a tendency also to manifest itself in our experience, in form. This is great, but it's also terrifying. Fortunately, every single thing we think is not immediately manifest. What a mess that would be. Can you imagine? But what happens is that what we have a tendency to dwell on, we have a tendency to experience. I came across this quote by Abraham, not the prophet, but the presence, I guess, that seems to be manifesting around and different people are listening to. And this quote came from Abraham, whoever Abraham may be, but I love this quote. A belief is only a thought you keep thinking. It's just a repeated thought. It's been repeated so much, it has transformed the geography of your brain. Literally. Repeated behavior transforms the geography, the physical geography of our brains. And repeated thinking transforms the physical geography of our brains, which allows us to learn. It allows us to develop habits. It also allows us to develop beliefs and habits of belief. Ernest Holmes, the founder of religious science, said this: our thought and emotion is the use we make, consciously or unconsciously, of this original creative thing that is the cause of everything. We should keep this in mind. The Spirit makes all things out of itself. Everything comes into being without effort. And when we exert ourselves, we are not in accord with the creative spirit in the way in which it works. So the creative law that acts upon our thoughts and beliefs is not something we have to work hard to make it do what it is we want to experience in our lives. The work is not in making the law do its thing, because it can't do anything else. It's not self-aware any more than your toaster is self-aware. You know, if you plug your toaster in, it isn't going to produce flowers. When you put the bread in, it will toast it. It won't turn it purple. All it knows how to do is what it knows how to do, and it's not aware that it's doing it. It just has built into it the mechanism that allows it to do it. Are you following me so far? Creative law works the same way. It doesn't have a choice. So when you put the toast in, when you put the bread in, that is your thought, then the toaster of creative law is going to toast that bread. You can put in rye bread. You can put in white bread. You could put oatmeal in there. The result would be different. Maybe not quite what you wanted, but you can do it. So you can put into creative law anything, but the result that you get will be in alignment with what you put in. Does this make sense?
Yes.
So we want to pay attention to what we put in. Not be worried about making the creative law work. It doesn't have any resistance to working whatsoever. What we want to pay attention to is what we put in. It's a lot easier to talk about that than it is to do, because it requires a certain amount of attention and vigilance on our part to become aware of what we're sticking in there in the first place, and then, if it's not working so well, to shift it. To shift it. Danny left me a message this week. He said he heard it on the radio, I think.
That was on the Today Show.
On the Today Show. The average person has 60,000 thoughts a day, and 80% of them are negative. The good news is that your life is not 100% negative, because based on those statistics, you'd think the world would be a lot worse off than it is. So I'm not suggesting that we have to then take at least 30% of those thoughts and fix them to get to 50-50. I'm suggesting that all you have to do is change 1 or 2%, and you're going to start to see a difference. Pick one thought that you always think in a negative way. Pick one person that you're always fussing over and shift it. And your whole life will start to change. Expectancy breeds progress. Expectancy speeds progress, Ernest Holmes said, in this thing called you.